Hello, greetings, everybody. Peace and power, elevation be to all you beautiful people out there. This your girl Tiffany coming through here, live in effect. Continue on with this beautiful Black History Month. So I want to continue with the next author, right? He was well known in the 70s. He was well known for his book called The Spook That Sat by the Door, and it became a movie. And his name is Sam Greenlee. Okay. So that's who I want to discuss about. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell and share this channel and check out all my other contents that I have on here. So thank you guys so much for coming through. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with the biography of Sam Greenlee. Okay. So right here, Sam Eldred Greenlee was an American writer. He is best known for his novel, The Spook That Sat by the Door, first published in London by Allison and Busby in March of 1969, having been rejected by dozens of mainstream publishers, and went on to be chosen as the Sunday Times Book of the Year. The novel was subsequently made into the 1973 movie of the same name, directed by Ivan Ditson and co-produced and written by Greenlee, that is now considered as a cult classic. All right, so he was born on July the 13th, 1930. Of course, he passed away on May 19, 2014. Now, he was born in St. Luke's Hospital in Chicago, Illinois, to an African-American family. His parents were singer and dancer Desiree Alexander and railroad man and union activist Samuel Greenlee. He grew up in West Woodlawn. He attended Inglewood High School and in 1948 won a track scholarship to the University of Wisconsin. Graduated in 1952 with a Bachelor of Science degree in political science. He was a member of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity. He served in the United States Army from 1952 to 1954, earned the rank of the first lieutenant, and from 1954 to 1957 did graduate studies in international relations at the University of Chicago. Okay, so in 1957, Greenlee began a career in the United States Information Agency and as one of the first Black officials to work overseas, served in Iraq, Pakistan, Indonesia, and Greece between 1957 and 1965. And in 1958, he was awarded the Meritorious Service Medal for bravery during the July 14 revolution in Baghdad. Leaving the USIA after 8 years, he stayed on in Greece, where he undertook further studies from 1963 to 1964 at the University of Talaloniki, and lived in 3 years on the island of Mykonos. All right. So this is where his writing career had come into place. So while living on Mykonos, Greenland began to write his first and best known novel entitled The Spook Who Sat by the Door, which was a story of a Black man who is recruited as a CIA officer and, having mastered the skill of a spy, then uses them to lead a Black guerrilla movement in the United States. Rejected by many mainstream publishers on both sides of the Atlantic, the novel was eventually published in London in March of 1969 by Allison and Busby. Greenlee having been introduced to the publisher Margaret Busby by a mutual friend in Mykonos. All right, so Greenlee later co-wrote with Mel Clay the screenplay for what became the 1973 film The Spook Who Sat by the Door, that he co-produced and directed with Ivan Ditson, and which is considered one of the more memorable and impassionate films that came out around the beginning of the notoriously polarizing blaxploitation era. And in 2011, an independent documentary entitled Infiltrating Hollywood: The Rise and Fall of the Spook Who Sat by the Door was filmed by Kristen Ackham and Clifford Ward about the making and reception of the Spook film, in which Greenland spoke about the suppression of the film soon after its release. In a chance meeting with Arbery Lewis, one of the first Black FBI agents to have been recruited in 1962 by the FBI, Greenlee was told that the spook who sat by the door was required reading at the FBI Academy in Quantico, Virginia. Let me read that part again. Greenlee was told that the spook who sat by the door was required reading at the FBI Academy in Quantico, Virginia. So his book was a requirement at the FBI Academy. But let's go ahead and continue. Other works by Greenlee included Baghdad Blues, a 1976 novel based on his experiences traveling in Iraq in 1950s and witnessed the 1958 Iraqi revolution. Blues for an African Princess, a 1971 collection of poems, and Ammunition, poetry in 1975. He also wrote short stories, plays, although he found no producer for any of them, and a screenplay for a film short called Lisa Throttle, a story adapted from Astral Fane's Lassa Trata. I never heard of that. But anyways, later years, Greenlee lived in Ghana and Spain for some years before returning to Chicago in the late 1980s. In 1990, he was named the Poet Laureate of Chicago. He taught screenwriting at Columbia College Chicago and hosted a talk show on WVON radio. He also worked on an autobiography that was to be called Sam's Blues Adventure of a Traveling Man. And in 2018, Greenlee was inducted into the Chicago Literary Hall of Fame. So again, he died on May 19, 2014 at the age of 83. And on June 6, 2014, Chicago DuSable Museum of African American History sponsored an evening of celebration in his honor, attended by his daughter, Natiki Matano. All right, so there's the bibliography at the bottom, and here are the references, and here are the external link if you want to look up more information. All right. So let me talk real brief about this book before I go on to the next thing. So I have the book right here, The Spook Who Sat by the Door. Okay. And I must say that it's a phenomenal book. You know what I'm saying? So as you can see, I got my little bookmark right here. Okay. So this book was given to me by my father. So my father gave me this book to read. He told me, you should go ahead and try to read this book right here. I said, okay, well, it's kind of old. I don't know how long he had it, but he had it for a long time. So he told me to go ahead and read this book. And I said, okay, I'm going to read it. And I read it, and I just thought the book was phenomenal. I didn't get a chance to read all of it, but I read up to like 46 pages in this book. And I was saying, what did I leave off at? What chapter did I leave off? I left off at chapter 4. So it was a pretty interesting read. So the whole thing that I got this book was basically someone who was a CIA agent training a group of youngsters in Chicago how to become revolutionaries. Okay. So, and if you notice how authors write their book, right? Although it be fictional, they kind of write it based on their life experience. So they put a little bit of their life experience and mix it in with the character, right? Just so they can make it more interesting. But you could tell some of it is based on that person's life, based on what they have experienced, based on what they witnessed. You know what I'm saying? So that's one thing that's unique about reading fictional novels. Sometimes it can be based on the author's story or their imagination or what they have experienced, and they just take what they've been through and combine it to create some type of event around it to make it more appealing. But anyways, in the movie, like I said, the movie was great. I thought it was a great movie. Who was it that played in? Pam Grier played in the movie. I know she did. TK Digital said, "Hurry up and finish so we can talk about it." I gotta get back to it. It's a lot of books that I gotta finish up. But to be honest with you, it's a lot of them. I got tons of books that I have not finished up yet. I still gotta finish up my Sister Soldier book. So it's a lot of books I gotta finish up. But yes. But yeah, this book right here, so far, basically he was teaching a group of youngsters how to become revolutionary, train them to become militant. Now, I'm surprised that the FBI Academy made it a requirement to read this type of book, because books like this would have got banned. His book would have got banned. Just think about it. It was already bad enough that it could not be published in the United States, so he had to go to London to get this book published. But books like this could be banned, and especially in the prison system, because you're talking about somebody who's come from the heart of the inner city of Chicago, go to Washington, D.C. to become a CIA agent and take on the tactics, learn everything, right? Then come back home and teach a group of youngsters what he have learned from the CIA and train them how to be militant and revolutionary. Woo, this kind of book would be banned. It will be hard to find. It will be hard to read. But I think it's a phenomenal book. And for anybody that never checked out this book before, you guys need to do so. It's called The Spook Who Sat by the Door. One of the most popular books back in the 60s, late 60s and early 70s. I wonder if he brought about a lot of inspiration to the Black Panther Party with this book. I just wonder. I wonder if he brought that type of inspiration to the Black Panther Party. Just a thought. But anyways, yes. I think, you guys need to check that book out. Like I said, it's a good book. And the movie, if you have not seen the movie, you need to watch it, because the movie is like very phenomenal. In my opinion, I liked it. I enjoyed it. You know what I'm saying? I think it just really gets into the detail of, it gets into the nitty gritty. And imagine folks reading the book back in the 70s. They probably became revolutionized and radical after they got done reading that. And imagine the kids trying to pick up that book. They probably couldn't even take that book home to their parents, because their parents would be like, "Look, you can't read this. You're gonna have to get rid of that book. You ain't gonna read that." Yeah, that man was very creative. I can tell you that. I give you that. That man was very creative. Creative. It took a lot of work. To break things down and go into details the way he did it. I give him kudos for that. But yes, I want to show you guys a video, right? But before I show the video, I gotta put up the disclaimer. Okay, so gotta put up that disclaimer. All right. So right here. Oops. Hold on. Oops. All right, so here's the copyright disclaimer. Copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. For fair use is a use permitted by a copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit educational or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. Okay. All right. So with that being said, I got that out the way. Okay. Now let's go to the video.
I wrote the book in 1966, and the film was made in 73. And here we are 30 years later, and I think it's every bit as powerful, if not more so, than it was when I first did it. Oh man, it was an adventure. I enjoyed every minute of it. You know, a lot of people would have shriveled up and blown away, but man, I was exhilarated. I'd go home and go to bed and wake up vibrating, because we never knew on Thursday whether we could meet payroll on Friday. We had to shoot it guerrilla style because that was necessary. The shots that we got of Chicago, we stole. We couldn't get the permits from Mayor Daley, the elder. So I said, look, man, we don't need no permits. We take a camera into Chicago. Who's gonna come and ask us for some paper? So we went in and we shot one scene on the L platform on 63rd and Cottage Grove, which is in the hood where I grew up and where I still live. How did we shoot it? We paid and went through the turnstile. And then we wanted some shots of the L moving, so we got on the next L that came along and went up to the front and pointed the camera out there and shot that. All the scenes in Chicago were theft. It's guerrilla cinema. I don't see any reason why we should do anything else. If we're going to be outsiders, man, take advantage of being outside. Okay? If you want to be a rich hoe, then go to Hollywood. If you want to say something true about black people, then do what we did. Raise the money from the black community and shoot what you want. Ivan's attorney, Tom Newsom, was a major, he and his brother, who was a professor at Toledo University, were the major fundraisers. For instance, I never raised a dime out of my hometown, Chicago. And I know some of the richest niggas in Chicago. Wouldn't touch it. You know, some of them I haven't spoken to since then. Tom and Dan, his brother, raised the money. And we put every bit of that money into shooting the film. And we raised about $850,000 from blacks. As I recall, UA put up completion funds, and it was less than $200,000. Black films ought to be about black people. They ought to have the same criteria as white films. Financed by, written by, produced by, directed by, distributed by, in theaters that we own if possible. I'm talking about an interdependent economy. I say interdependent because it would be impossible to just pull ourselves out of it.
Self-reliance.
What's that? Self-reliance, yes.
So
which is what my elders preached to me when I was growing up. Now we're talking about integration. Now it's diversity. And the latest thing is reparations, which ain't nothing but begging for crumbs from the white man's table. and we ought to be about the business of building our own tables and baking our own bread. I want people to think. And out of thought, concerned action. You don't act first and then think. You think first and then act. That's why we were given brains. That's why we don't act instinctively. And when we do, we're wrong. Whichever way they go, I want to think about what I've had to say. I'm not trying to recruit anybody. I'm not trying to proselytize. I'm not trying to convince anybody. I want to shake up the mind. I want people to look at that movie and go out of there thinking. And I think I've accomplished that purpose. I can sum it up in one word: crossover. Okay, when black artists were more concerned about attracting a white audience and entertaining the black audience, they stopped being entertainers and became hoes. Okay, Billie Holiday, Dizzy Gillespie, Miles Davis, they weren't concerned with the color of their audience. They knew who their audience was. If the white folks wanted to come in there and buy their records, they were welcome, but they were not playing for white folks. The bling blings are looking for a white audience, okay? And I feel just like the entertainers and musicians that preceded me. I wouldn't give a damn if nobody white ever read my book. If they do, I want them to pay for it and get my royalties. And if they get something out of it, I say, fine. But my audience is not white. I don't write for black bourgeois intellectuals. I write for the people on the block where I live. Well, man, if you don't belong someplace, get the hell out. There's no excuse now for black people not to be making their own films. With modern technology, you can shoot a film that 10 years ago would have cost $10 million for less than a fraction of that. Now, why do they have to go through all of that pain, man? Are they masochistic or what? Are they hoping that one day they'll make a whole lot of money? You can make a film shoot it DV, digital, for a fraction of what you would. You can make a damn good film for $1 million. In fact, if somebody gave me $1 million, I'd shoot 3. If you want to work for white folks, take what they got to give you, put the money in the back and stop whining. And if it's painful, get out. You can't have it both ways. Once upon a time, they used to own slaves. Nowadays, they rent us. You can break the lease. Once upon a time, they used to own slaves. Nowadays, they rent us. You can break the lease if you want to. I did. I don't know. White folks are not going to change. So some of us have to. And I'm sincerely disappointed in the activity of so-called leaders in our community. I think they've totally lost touch. They spend so much time with white folks trying to convince them to do the right thing that they don't spend enough time on a grassroots level where I live. And they don't know what the people down here are thinking. They don't know what they're feeling. And I'm not at all sure they care. I'm not at all sure they care. I feel a definite sense of elitism today. I don't believe that so-called leaders have any connection with the people, viscerally, intellectually, or otherwise. In fact, I think they're frightened of us. They are afraid of ordinary grassroots black people, yet they still pretend to speak for us. And I say us because that's where I am. They ever try to start a movement of the type before, okay, which was a mass movement of grassroots working class black people led by well-educated elite black people. And I'm making this.
All right, so that was Sam Greenlee. As you could see, based on his mannerism and how he talked, you can tell that he wasn't a sellout Negro. Okay, you can tell he was not he stuck to that to the day he died. Okay. He was a grassroots. He was unapologetically black, as you can see. And then I don't know if you guys had caught it in the line where he says that about his book, about the spook that sat by the door. He said, when I write my book, you know, it's not to please the white audience. He said, I'm not writing my book for no bougie black Negroes either. He said, I'm writing books for people that come from my neighborhood, because you could tell, as he mentioned, he came from the hood of Chicago. He said, I write my books from people who came out the inner city, came from the background that I came from, that came from my community. You know what I'm saying? That's who I write the book for. Now, white folks read my books, cool, but they better pay me some money because I need my royalty. Did you just hear how he said that? And he also said that, you know, black people should be able to tell their own story and create their own narrative. Okay. And I like that mentality that he has, because he shows that he's a passionate person. He's passionate about his community. He's passionate about his environment. He's saying that, look, we should be able to tell our story and not go by the story based on what they want us to tell it. Same way with Gordon Parks. Gordon Parks told his story, right? When he did the movie about the learning tree, I never seen the movie, but the way he narrated the story, he was the one that was in control. He was the one that wrote, produced, and directed. In this case, Greenlee, he wrote it, and he co-produced, and he co-directed the movie. Okay? So that's taking ownership of your craft. And you doing it as a way that people that look like you especially can relate to you. Okay? And also he mentioned when he did the movie, they were talking about how he need a permit to go certain areas or whatnot. He was like, why should I get a permit to go over here, over there? You know what I'm saying? So he figured out he was very clever with it. He was able to go in certain parts of the area to film the movie. Okay. And he also said that he wasn't going to go out his budget to be trying to go elsewhere to, you know, film this movie. So he did it right there in Chicago. Okay. So you can see where that brother's mind is at. The man said, look, we got to be able to tell our story. We got to be able to control the narrative. We got to be able to put in the information. We got to be able to talk about these things so that way it can become relatable to people. So he knew who his audience were. And he also mentioned about how he was disappointed in the black leadership, where the black leadership, they're too busy trying to cater to white folks and trying to, you know, get white people to be on the same page as them and all of that. But they don't take the time out to go into the inner city community where there is the problem there, you know, or talk to the grassroots community. And he feel like those that are in the black leadership, he thinks they don't really care about those in the actual community. All they want to do is try to please those white people. So you heard it all. You see how passionate he is. You know what I'm saying? You see, he had that ghetto coming out. He had that Chicago coming out of him. You know what I'm saying? So that Chicago sway, I mean, you hear in their voice, you know, Chicago folks got a certain way they talk, you know what I'm saying? They kind of talk like, you know what I'm saying? Like they just have a little smooth way of talking a little bit. So with him, he was like, you know, this just that I write these books to relate to my environment, to the people that comes from my environment. And that's real right there. And I give him props for that. I really do. All right. But I want to say peace to the chat. Thanks everybody that's coming through. Thanks to TK Digital. Thanks to Brother Vinyasa. And also thanks to Mawu Lisa. I think that's your name, Mawu Lisa. If I say it right, sorry if I mispronounce it. All right. But thank you guys for coming through, man. Thanks to everybody. All right. And make sure you guys subscribe and hit the notification bell and share the channel and check out more contents I have on here. All right. I will also do another video later on tonight. So yeah, I'm gonna do another video later on tonight. I'm gonna go through the archives. Find who I wanna, what's gonna be the next topic. So the next person I'm going to do. Okay. I think I have one in mind, but I'm not gonna say yet. Okay. But anyways, you guys take it easy on yourself and be safe. And I'll chop it up with y'all later. Peace and power, elevation. Be to all you. This your girl Tiffany, and I'm logging off saying deuces. Thank you. All right. Y'all have a good one.